I never thought my decision to install a propane backup generator would turn into a neighborhood war. But here I was, standing in my driveway in Phoenix, Arizona, watching Brenda Patterson from the HOA board march toward my house with a clipboard, and the kind of righteous fury that only middle-aged women with too much time and too little purpose can muster. It was a Tuesday morning in March, and I had just finished my coffee when I saw her coming. My name is Aaron Morrison, and I had lived in the Saguaro Heights subdivision for 3 years without major incident. Sure, the HOA had sent me a nastogram about my mailbox being the wrong shade of black once, and they had complained when my grass was a 1/4 inch too long during monsoon season, but nothing serious. That was about to change. "Mr. Morrison," Brenda called out, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. She was wearing a crisp white blouse tucked into khaki capris, her blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. "We need to discuss your illegal installation." I set my coffee mug down on the porch railing and walked toward her. "Morning, Brenda. What illegal installation are you talking about?" She thrust the clipboard toward me like it was a weapon. "That monstrosity you put in your side yard, the propane tank and that generator. You never got HOA approval, and I have it on good authority that it violates multiple county codes." I felt my jaw tighten. The generator had cost me $8,000, professionally installed just 2 weeks ago. After the power outages we had experienced during last summer's heat waves, I was not about to let my wife and 2 kids sweat through another triple-digit heat wave without backup power. "Brenda, I submitted the architectural review request 2 months ago. I got approval from the county, and everything was installed by a licensed contractor." "I have no record of any such request," she said, her lips pursing into a thin line. "And even if you did submit something, which I doubt, this clearly violates our community guidelines about outdoor equipment visibility." I pulled out my phone and opened my email. I sent it to the architectural committee on January 15th. I have the email right here, along with the read receipt showing that someone on the committee opened it on January 16th. Brenda barely glanced at my phone. "That does not matter. The installation is a fire hazard, and I am calling for an official fire inspection. If the fire department finds any violations, and I am confident they will, you will be required to remove everything at your own expense. Additionally, you will face fines of $250 per day until the violation is corrected. You cannot be serious." "I am entirely serious, Mr. Morrison. The safety of this community is my responsibility, and I will not have negligent homeowners putting their neighbors at risk." She turned on her heel and walked back toward her golf cart, which she had parked directly in front of my driveway, blocking me in. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed with a text from my wife, Grace. She was at work at the Children's Hospital where she worked as a pediatric nurse. The text read, "Don't forget to pick up Jake from soccer at 4. Emily has dance at 5:30. I texted back a thumbs up, but my mind was still on Brenda and her threats. I went inside and pulled up the county records on my laptop. Everything was in order. The permit had been approved, the inspection had passed, and the contractor had provided all the necessary documentation showing that the installation met every fire code requirement. The propane tank was the proper distance from the house, the generator had the required clearances, and all the electrical work had been done by a licensed electrician. That evening, I got a certified letter from the HOA. It was a formal notice of violation, complete with legal jargon and threats of escalating fines. The letter stated that I had 7 days to schedule a fire inspection with the Maricopa County Fire Department, and provide documentation that my installation met all applicable codes. If I failed to comply, the HOA would place a lien on my property. I called my neighbor Tom, who had served on the HOA board before retiring from it in frustration. "Tom, can they actually do this?" Tom sighed on the other end of the line. "Technically, yes. The HOA has the authority to request inspections if they believe there is a safety issue. But Aaron, I reviewed your installation when you had it done. It looks completely professional. This is just Brenda being Brenda." "What do you mean?" "She has been on a power trip ever since she became board president last year. She fined the Johnsons because their rose bushes were 2 inches over the property line. She made the Chens repaint their front door because she said the red was too bright. She is trying to justify her existence by finding problems where none exist. So what do I do? Call the fire department yourself. Schedule the inspection. When they confirm everything is up to code, you shove that report so far up Brenda's nose she will be sneezing paperwork for a month." I took Tom's advice and called the Maricopa County Fire Department the next morning. The dispatcher was professional and scheduled an inspection for Friday morning. The inspector's name was Chief Daniel Rodriguez, and he had been with the department for 23 years. Friday arrived with clear blue skies and temperatures already climbing into the 80s by 9 in the morning. Chief Rodriguez pulled up in a white fire department SUV at exactly 10 o'clock. He was a stocky man in his late 40s with a neat mustache and the kind of calm, competent demeanor that immediately put you at ease. "Mr. Morrison," he said, extending his hand. "That's me. Thanks for coming out." "No problem. I understand your HOA has some concerns about a generator installation." "That's right. It is around the side of the house. I can show you all the permits and inspection records." Chief Rodriguez spent the next 45 minutes examining every aspect of the installation. He measured clearances, checked the propane tank's mounting, inspected the electrical connections, and reviewed all my documentation. He took photographs and made notes on a tablet. Finally, he straightened up and nodded. "Mr. Morrison, this is one of the cleanest installations I have seen in a while. Everything is by the book. Your clearances exceed the minimum requirements, the propane tank is properly secured and vented, and the electrical work is excellent. Whoever did this knew what they were doing." Relief flooded through me. "So there are no violations?" "None whatsoever. I will file my report today and you should receive an official copy within 48 hours. You are welcome to provide that to your HOA." "I definitely will. Thank you, Chief," he smiled. "Between you and me, I wish more homeowners were as responsible as you. Having backup power during an emergency can be life-saving, especially in this heat. You did the right thing." After Chief Rodriguez left, I immediately emailed the HOA board, informing them that the fire inspection had been completed and that the installation had been confirmed to meet all applicable codes. I copied Tom on the email, along with my attorney, just to cover my bases. Brenda's response came within an hour. "The HOA board will review the fire inspection report once we receive the official documentation. Until such time, the violation notice remains in effect." I called my attorney, Marcus Chen, who specialized in HOA disputes. "Marcus, can she do this?" The fire chief confirmed everything is fine. "She is stalling," Marcus said. "Once you provide the official report, she will have no legal ground to stand on, but I would not be surprised if she tries to find some other reason to go after you. People like Brenda Patterson do not like to be proven wrong." Marcus was right. The official fire inspection report arrived on Monday, and I hand-delivered copies to every member of the HOA board. The report was thorough and unambiguous. The generator installation met or exceeded all fire safety codes, posed no hazard to the community, and was properly permitted through the county. The next HOA board meeting was scheduled for the following Wednesday evening at the community clubhouse. I made sure to attend, bringing both Marcus and the fire inspection report. The meeting room was set up with a long table at the front for the board members and rows of folding chairs for residents. About 20 homeowners were in attendance, more than usual. Brenda called the meeting to order with 3 sharp raps of a gavel. Sitting beside her were the other board members. Vice President Derek Hallbrook, a real estate agent who always seemed nervous. Treasurer Patricia Wu, a retired accountant. Secretary Linda Morrison, no relation to me, a substitute teacher. And member-at-large Frank Davidson, who owned a car dealership. After disposing of routine business about landscaping contracts and pool maintenance, Brenda turned her attention to me. Now we come to the matter of Mr. Aaron Morrison and his unpermitted generator installation. I raised my hand. Brenda, may I address the board? She looked annoyed but nodded. You have 3 minutes. I stood up and held up the fire inspection report. As you all know, the HOA requested a fire inspection of my generator installation. Chief Daniel Rodriguez of the Maricopa County Fire Department conducted a comprehensive inspection last Friday. His report, which I have provided to every board member, confirms that the installation meets or exceeds all applicable fire safety codes. There are no violations, no hazards, and no issues of any kind. Furthermore, I have documentation showing that I submitted an architectural review request on January 15th, which was received and opened by someone on the committee on January 16th. I have complied with every HOA requirement and every county regulation. Brenda's face had turned a shade of red that clashed with her coral blouse. The architectural committee has no record of your request. Marcus stood up beside me. Marcus Chen, representing Mr. Morrison. The email records clearly show that the request was sent to the email address listed on the HOA website for architectural review requests. Whether the committee properly processed that request is an internal HOA matter, but my client fulfilled his obligation to submit the request. The board will take this under advisement, Brenda said coldly. With all due respect, Marcus continued, there is nothing to take under advisement. The fire chief has confirmed the installation is safe and code compliant. The county has issued all proper permits. My client has done everything required of him. Any further action by the HOA to fine or penalize Mr. Morrison would be arbitrary and capricious, and we would have no choice but to pursue legal remedies. A murmur ran through the other homeowners. Tom, sitting in the front row, spoke up. Brenda, I think Marcus is right. If the fire department says it is safe, what is the problem? The problem, Brenda snapped, is that this sets a precedent. If we allow Mr. Morrison to install whatever he wants without proper oversight, then every homeowner will think they can do the same. But I did get oversight, I said, trying to keep my voice level. I got county permits, I had inspections. I submitted a request to the HOA. What more do you want? Brenda stood up, her hands flat on the table. I want homeowners who respect the community standards that the rest of us work hard to maintain. I want people who understand that we have rules for a reason. Frank Davidson, the car dealership owner, cleared his throat. Brenda, I have read the fire inspection report. It is pretty clear. I move that we accept the report and close this matter. I second, Patricia Wu said quietly. Brenda looked like she had bitten into a lemon. Very well. All in favor. 4 hands went up. Derek, Patricia, Linda, and Frank all voted to close the matter. Brenda sat down hard in her chair, her face still red. "The motion passes," she said through gritted teeth. "This matter is closed. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong." 2 weeks later, I received another notice from the HOA. This time, they were claiming that my generator created excessive noise that violated the community's noise ordinance. The notice stated that the generator had been measured at 75 decibels during a test run, which exceeded the 65 decibel limit for residential areas during daytime hours. I called Marcus immediately. "They are making this up. The generator only runs during power outages or during the monthly test cycle, which lasts 5 minutes, and it is not that loud. Do you have specifications from the manufacturer?" "Yes, the generator is rated at 62 decibels at 23 feet, which is well below the HOA limit." "Send me everything. I will draft a response." Marcus's response was swift and pointed. He noted that the HOA had provided no evidence of their noise measurement, no date and time when the alleged violation occurred, and no methodology for how the measurement was taken. He demanded that the HOA provide all documentation supporting their claim or withdraw the violation notice within 5 business days. Brenda's response was to schedule another special meeting of the HOA board, this time specifically to address ongoing violations by Mr. Aaron Morrison. The meeting notice went out to all residents, and I could feel the neighborhood starting to take sides. Some people, like Tom and a few other neighbors, thought Brenda was being ridiculous. Others, particularly Brenda's friends on the street, seemed to believe that I was some kind of rule-breaking menace. The night before the special meeting, my doorbell rang at 8:30. I opened the door to find Linda Morrison, the HOA secretary, standing on my porch. She looked uncomfortable. "Linda, what can I do for you?" "Aaron, I probably should not be here, but I wanted you to know something." She glanced around nervously. "Brenda has been asking board members to support a special assessment against your property. She wants to hire an acoustic engineer to do an official noise study, and she wants you to pay for it. Can she do that?" "Not without a board vote, and I do not think she has the votes. Frank and Patricia are both getting tired of this whole thing, but I thought you should know what is coming." "Thank you, Linda. I appreciate you telling me." She nodded and hurried back to her car. I stood on the porch for a while, watching the desert sunset paint the sky orange and purple. This was getting out of hand. The special meeting was even more crowded than the last one. At least 40 residents showed up, and the tension in the room was palpable. Brenda called the meeting to order and immediately launched into a prepared statement about the importance of community standards and the need for all residents to comply with HOA regulations. Then she played her card. "The board has received multiple complaints about noise from Mr. Morrison's generator. In the interest of community peace, I am proposing that we hire Southwest acoustic engineers to conduct a comprehensive noise study. The cost will be approximately $3,000 to be assessed against Mr. Morrison's property if violations are found." Marcus stood up before I could. "Who filed these complaints?" Brenda shuffled her papers. "The complaints were received by the HOA board. I am asking for the names of the complainants and the dates and times of the alleged noise violations." "That information is confidential." "No, it is not," Marcus said firmly. "Under Arizona law and your own HOA bylaws, my client has the right to face his accusers and to examine the evidence against him. If you cannot produce the complaints, then there is nothing to investigate." Frank Davidson spoke up. "Marcus has a point, Brenda. Who actually complained?" Brenda's face flushed again. "I received the complaints verbally." "From whom?" Frank pressed. "From concerned residents who wished to remain anonymous." Tom stood up in the audience. Brenda, did anyone actually complain, or did you just decide you did not like Aaron's generator? I resent that implication, Brenda snapped. Then produce the complaints, Tom shot back. The meeting devolved into chaos with residents arguing back and forth. Finally, Derek Holbrook, the nervous vice president, banged the gavel. Everyone, please, this is getting us nowhere. Brenda, I think we need to table this motion until we have actual documented complaints. We cannot spend $3,000 of HOA funds on speculation. Patricia Wu nodded. I agree. I move to table the motion indefinitely. Second, Frank said. The vote was 4-1, with only Brenda voting against. She looked furious. As people filed out of the meeting, several neighbors came up to me to offer their support. A woman named Helen Carter, who lived 3 houses down, apologized. I had no idea Brenda was being this unreasonable. Your generator does not bother anyone. I can barely hear it during the test runs. But not everyone was supportive. Brenda's friend, Susan Palmer, stopped in front of me and said, "You have caused nothing but trouble since this started. Some of us are discussing whether we should try to recall you from the neighborhood." Susan, I am not on the board. You cannot recall me from anything. You know what I mean. We do not want troublemakers here. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. Let's go, Aaron. Over the next few weeks, things quieted down. I heard through Tom that Brenda was fuming but had been warned by the other board members to drop the issue. My generator continued to function perfectly, running its monthly 5-minute test cycle without incident. Then, in late April, we had our first significant power outage of the year. A transformer fire knocked out electricity to about 300 homes in our area, including most of Saguaro Heights. My generator kicked on automatically within 10 seconds, just as it was designed to do. I was working from home that day, and Grace was off duty. The kids were at school. Our house remained cool and comfortable while the temperature outside climbed toward 95 degrees. I could see neighbors standing in their yards, looking hot and miserable. Around 2 in the afternoon, my doorbell rang. I opened the door to find an elderly couple, the Hendersons from 2 streets over. Mr. Henderson was sweating profusely and looked unsteady. I am sorry to bother you, Mrs. Henderson said, but Bill has a heart condition and our house is getting dangerously hot. Tom said you have power. Could we possibly sit in your air conditioning for a little while? Of course. Please come in. I got them settled in the living room with cold water and turned up the air conditioning. Mrs. Henderson nearly cried with relief. Thank you so much. We called around, but everyone else has lost power too. Over the next few hours, word spread. More neighbors showed up. Families with young children, another elderly resident who needed to keep insulin refrigerated, a woman who worked from home and needed internet access for an important video conference. My house became an impromptu community center. Grace came home around 4 and immediately started helping. She checked on Mr. Henderson and made sure everyone was comfortable. She even started making sandwiches when she realized some of the kids were getting hungry. By 6 o'clock, we had about 15 people in our house. The power company estimated that electricity would not be restored until the next morning at the earliest. Tom came by with his wife, bringing their portable phone chargers to help people who needed to charge their devices. Aaron, Tom said quietly, you probably just made Brenda's head explode. What do you mean? Half the neighborhood is going to be talking about how your generator saved the day. The thing she has been trying to get rid of turned out to be a community asset. He was right. Over the next few days, I received thank you notes, cookies, and even a fruit basket from grateful neighbors. Several people mentioned at the next regular HOA meeting that they were considering installing generators of their own. Brenda did not attend that meeting. Derek Holbrook ran it instead, and he announced that Brenda had resigned from the HOA board effective immediately, citing personal reasons. The room buzzed with speculation, but Derek would not elaborate. I learned the real story from Linda, who called me a few days later. "Aaron, I thought you should know what really happened. After the power outage, Patricia did some digging into the HOA records. She found out that Brenda never forwarded your architectural review request to the committee. She received it, but she deleted it and never told anyone. She was planning to claim you never submitted it. Are you serious?" Completely. Patricia confronted her about it, and Brenda admitted to it. She said she did it because she thought generators were ugly and would hurt property values. Patricia told her she either needed to resign or they would bring formal charges against her for misconduct. Wow. There is more. Patricia also found evidence that Brenda had been embezzling from the HOA account. Nothing huge, maybe $2,000 or $3,000 over the past year, but she had been paying herself for services she never actually performed. Patricia has turned everything over to a forensic accountant, and they are considering whether to involve the police. My stomach dropped. This is way bigger than I thought. No kidding. Look, Aaron, on behalf of the board, I want to apologize. You were right all along, and you were treated horribly. We are going to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. 2 weeks later, the board held a special election to fill Brenda's vacant seat. Tom agreed to run, and he won easily. At his first meeting as a board member, he proposed a motion to reimburse me for all legal fees I had incurred dealing with the HOA's baseless accusations. The motion passed unanimously, but the story was not over. In June, I received a call from Detective Sarah Martinez of the Phoenix Police Department. She asked if I could come down to the station to give a statement about my interactions with Brenda Patterson. "Is this about the HOA stuff?" I asked. "It is related to that, yes. We are investigating Mrs. Patterson for theft and fraud. Your case is part of a larger pattern of behavior we are looking into." I went to the police station the next day and spent 2 hours giving a detailed statement. Detective Martinez explained that after the HOA board had brought in the forensic accountant, they had discovered that Brenda's embezzlement was far more extensive than initially thought. She had stolen over $30,000 from the HOA over the past 3 years through fake invoices, inflated expenses, and direct transfers to her personal account. "We are also looking into whether she committed fraud in other ways," Detective Martinez said. "We know she deleted your architectural review request. Did she ever forge any documents or make false statements to other homeowners?" I told her about the noise complaints that never existed and the threats about fire code violations before the inspection had even happened. Detective Martinez took careful notes. In August, Brenda Patterson was arrested and charged with 3 counts of theft, 2 counts of fraud, and 1 count of computer tampering for deleting my email. The local news picked up the story, and it became a minor sensation. "HOA president arrested for embezzling thousands," ran the headline in the Arizona Republic. The case went to trial in October. I was called to testify about my experiences with Brenda and the HOA. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Jennifer Lawson, walked me through everything that had happened, from the initial confrontation about the generator to the discovery that Brenda had deliberately sabotaged my architectural review request. Brenda's defense attorney tried to argue that she had simply been overzealous in her duties as HOA president, and that the financial discrepancies were accounting errors, not intentional theft. But the evidence was overwhelming. The forensic accountant testified about the pattern of fake invoices and transfers. Other homeowners testified about similar harassment and arbitrary fines. The email records showed that Brenda had deliberately deleted my request and then lied about never receiving it. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. They found Brenda guilty on all counts. At the sentencing hearing in November, the judge was not sympathetic. "Mrs. Patterson, you were entrusted with a position of responsibility in your community, and you abused that trust in multiple ways. You stole money that belonged to your neighbors. You harassed homeowners who had done nothing wrong. You fabricated violations and wielded your authority as a weapon against anyone who disagreed with you. This kind of behavior is toxic to community life and cannot be tolerated." Brenda was sentenced to 3 years in state prison, with eligibility for parole after 18 months. She was also ordered to pay full restitution to the HOA, plus additional damages to me for the legal fees that the HOA reimbursement had not covered. The judge also imposed a $500 fine for each count. As I left the courthouse that day, I ran into Patricia Wu. She looked relieved but exhausted. "I never imagined it would come to this when I joined the board. I just wanted to help the community." "You did help," I told her. "You uncovered the truth and made sure justice was served. That takes courage." She smiled weakly. "How is your generator running?" "Perfectly. We had another outage last week and it kicked right on. My house was the only one on the block with power." "Good. Maybe some good came out of all this mess after all." The HOA held a special meeting in December to discuss reforms. Tom, now serving as board president, presented a comprehensive set of changes designed to prevent future abuses. The reforms included mandatory financial audits every year, term limits for board members, a clear appeals process for homeowners facing violations, and transparency requirements for all board actions. The residents voted overwhelmingly to approve the reforms. There was a sense in the room that we had been through something difficult, but had come out stronger on the other side. As for me, life returned to normal. My generator continued to provide backup power during outages, which happened 3 more times before the end of the year. Each time, I invited neighbors over to charge devices, cool off, or just escape the heat. What Brenda had seen as an eyesore and a violation had become a genuine community resource. Grace and I hosted a neighborhood barbecue in January to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the generator installation. About 50 people showed up, including Tom, Patricia, Frank, and Linda from the HOA board. Even the Hendersons came, with Mr. Henderson looking much healthier than he had during that first power outage. Tom raised a beer in a toast. "To Aaron and his generator, may it run forever, and may we never have another HOA president like Brenda Patterson." Everyone laughed and clinked glasses. I looked around at my neighbors, the people I shared this community with, and felt grateful. It had been a long and difficult fight, but in the end, the system had worked. The fire chief had confirmed everything was by the book. The courts had held a corrupt official accountable, and the community had come together to make things right. As the sun set over the Phoenix desert that evening, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I fired up the grill and served burgers to my neighbors. The generator hummed quietly in the background, a steady presence that no one complained about anymore. My 10-year-old son, Jake, came running up to me with a hot dog in one hand. "Dad, Mr. Henderson said you are a hero because of your generator. Is that true?" I ruffled his hair. "I am not a hero, buddy. I just did what I thought was right and did not give up when someone tried to tell me I was wrong. But you helped all those people during the power outages. That is what neighbors do. We help each other." Jake thought about that for a moment, then nodded and ran off to play with the other kids. Grace came up beside me and slipped her arm around my waist. "Quite a year," she said. "That is an understatement. You regret installing the generator, all the trouble it caused." I looked around at the party, at the friends and neighbors gathered in our backyard, at the community that had rallied together in the end. Not for a second. Sometimes doing the right thing means standing your ground, even when someone in authority tells you you are wrong. The fire chief knew I was right. The county knew I was right. I just had to wait for everyone else to catch up. And now Brenda is in prison. That is not because of the generator. That is because she was a thief and a bully. The generator just exposed it. Grace squeezed my waist. "I am proud of you. You could have just removed the generator to avoid the conflict. A lot of people would have. And then what would have happened when the Hendersons needed help during that outage? Or when those families with little kids needed somewhere cool to go? No, I made the right call." The party went on until well after dark. As people started to leave, many of them stopped to thank me again, not just for the generator, but for standing up to Brenda and exposing the corruption in the HOA. Several people told me I should run for the board myself, but I declined. I had no interest in HOA politics. I just wanted to live my life, take care of my family, and be a good neighbor. After everyone had gone and we had cleaned up, I did one final walk around the property before bed. The generator sat in its place on the side of the house, the propane tank gleaming in the moonlight. It was exactly as Chief Rodriguez had described it, by the book, safe and professional. I thought about everything that had happened over the past year. The confrontation with Brenda, the fire inspection, the HOA meetings, the power outages, the investigation, the trial. It had been exhausting and stressful, but I had learned something important. Sometimes the rules are on your side, and when they are, you have to stand your ground. You have to trust in the process and believe that the truth will win out eventually. Chief Rodriguez had given me that confirmation when I needed it most. When Brenda was throwing around accusations and threats, he had come out, done his job professionally, and confirmed what I already knew. I had done everything right. That report had been the foundation for everything that came after. It had given me the confidence to keep fighting, to bring in Marcus, and to push back against the HOA's overreach. And in the end, justice had been served. Brenda was in prison. The HOA had reformed, and my generator was recognized as the community asset it had always been. As I locked the back door and turned off the porch light, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Not because I had won some petty neighborhood dispute, but because I had stood up for what was right and had refused to be bullied or intimidated. That was a lesson I wanted my kids to learn, and now I had a real-life example to teach them. The next morning, I was drinking coffee on the porch when Tom pulled up in his golf cart. He had a big smile on his face. "Aaron, you are not going to believe this." "What?" "I just got a call from a reporter at Channel 12. They want to do a story about your generator and how it helped the neighborhood during the outages. Human interest piece, feel-good stuff. You interested?" I thought about it for a moment. Part of me wanted to just let the whole thing fade into history, but another part of me recognized an opportunity to send a message to other homeowners who might be dealing with similar situations. Sure, why not? But only if they agree to focus on the broader issue of HOA overreach and the importance of holding board members accountable. I will let them know. The interview aired 2 weeks later. The reporter, an energetic young woman named Melissa Torres, did an excellent job of telling the story. She interviewed me, Tom, the Hendersons, and even got Chief Rodriguez to appear on camera to confirm that the generator installation was properly done. The segment also touched on Brenda's arrest and conviction, though the station was careful to stick to the facts of the case. The piece ended with Melissa standing in front of my house, the generator visible in the background. This story is a reminder that homeowner associations serve an important purpose in maintaining community standards, but that power must be exercised responsibly and with accountability. When Aaron Morrison installed this generator, he followed every rule, got every permit, and did everything by the book. The fire chief confirmed it. The county confirmed it. It took courage for Morrison to stand his ground against an HOA board president who had lost sight of her duty to serve the community. And it took even more courage for other board members to investigate and expose corruption in their own ranks. Tonight, the Saguaro Heights subdivision has a reformed HOA, an imprisoned former president, and one resident whose simple decision to prepare for power outages became a rallying point for accountability and transparency in community governance. The segment generated a lot of attention. I got calls from friends and relatives who had seen it. The HOA received inquiries from other communities asking about the reforms we had implemented, and I heard from several other homeowners in other subdivisions who were dealing with their own HOA nightmares. To one of them, a man named Robert in Scottsdale who was being fined for installing solar panels, I gave simple advice. Document everything, follow every rule, get expert opinions, and do not back down if you know you are right. The system works if you are persistent. That winter was mild, and we only had one brief power outage when a dust storm knocked down some power lines. My generator kicked on flawlessly, and I once again had neighbors stopping by to charge phones and cool off. It had become an accepted part of the neighborhood routine. In March, almost exactly 1 year after Brenda had first confronted me in my driveway, the HOA held its annual meeting. The attendance was the highest anyone could remember. Tom gave a report on the state of the association, highlighting the financial recovery after Brenda's theft, the new transparency measures, and the improved relationship between the board and residents. Then he did something unexpected. He presented me with a plaque. It read, "Presented to Aaron Morrison in recognition of service to the Saguaro Heights community. Your generator has been a source of light during dark times, both literally and figuratively." I was genuinely touched. Grace, sitting beside me with the kids, squeezed my hand. Jake and Emily beamed with pride. "I want to say something," I said, standing up with the plaque. "When I installed this generator, I never imagined it would lead to everything that happened this past year. I just wanted to keep my family safe during power outages. But what happened taught me something important about community. We are strongest when we look out for each other, when we hold each other accountable, and when we refuse to let bullies and thieves hide behind authority." Brenda Patterson forgot that she was supposed to serve this community, not rule it. I am grateful to Tom, Patricia, Frank, Linda, and everyone else who stood up for what was right. And I am grateful to Chief Rodriguez and the Maricopa County Fire Department for doing their jobs professionally and confirming that everything was, as he put it, by the book. The room erupted in applause. After the meeting, dozens of people came up to shake my hand and thank me again. The Hendersons were there, and Mrs. Henderson gave me a hug. "You saved Bill's life that day during the outage," she whispered. "I will never forget it." Later that spring, I received a letter from the Arizona Homeowner Rights Coalition, an advocacy group I had not heard of before. They asked if I would be willing to speak at their annual conference about my experience with the HOA. After discussing it with Grace, I agreed. The conference was held in Tucson in May. I was on a panel with 2 other homeowners who had fought HOA battles, a real estate attorney and a state legislator who was working on HOA reform legislation. I told my story again, emphasizing the importance of the fire inspection and Chief Rodriguez's confirmation that everything met code. That inspection was my shield, I told the audience of about 200 people. When the HOA president was making wild accusations, I had an official report from a respected fire chief saying I had done everything right. That is my advice to anyone dealing with an unreasonable HOA. Get expert opinions, get official inspections, and document everything. The truth is your best defense. The legislator, a woman named Senator Rebecca Walsh, approached me after the panel. Mr. Morrison, your story illustrates exactly why we need stronger protections for homeowners. I am working on a bill that would require HOAs to accept licensed contractor certifications and county permits as presumptive proof of compliance with community standards. Your case would be a perfect example to cite in support of the legislation. I would be happy to testify if it would help. I will be in touch. True to her word, Senator Walsh invited me to testify before a state Senate committee in July. I took a day off work and drove to the state capitol in Phoenix. The hearing room was formal and intimidating, with high ceilings and lots of dark wood paneling. I told my story one more time, this time for the official record. I brought copies of the fire inspection report, the county permits, and the timeline of events. I explained how Brenda had ignored the evidence, fabricated violations, and ultimately been exposed as a thief. Homeowners should not have to hire attorneys and fight for months just to exercise their legal rights, I concluded. When a county fire chief says an installation is safe and compliant, that should be the end of the discussion. HOAs serve an important purpose, but they should not be allowed to substitute their judgment for that of qualified experts and government officials. The committee members asked thoughtful questions, and several of them thanked me for my testimony. The bill eventually passed both houses of the legislature and was signed into law by the governor in September. The new law required HOAs to accept county permits and licensed contractor certifications as proof of compliance with building and safety codes, and it created a formal appeals process for homeowners who believed they were being unfairly targeted. I never expected to become an advocate for homeowner rights. I just wanted to install a generator, but life has a way of pushing you into roles you never anticipated. By the time the first anniversary of Brenda's sentencing rolled around, life in Saguaro Heights had settled into a comfortable normalcy. The HOA was functioning smoothly under Tom's leadership. Property values were stable. The community was peaceful. And my generator continued to hum along, ready to provide power whenever it was needed. One evening in November, almost 2 years after the whole ordeal began, I was sitting on the porch watching another desert sunset when Derek Holbrook walked over. Derek, the nervous former vice president, had stayed on the board and had actually become a much more confident and effective leader. "Aaron, I owe you an apology." I looked at him in surprise. "For what?" "I knew Brenda was being unreasonable about your generator. I knew you had done everything right, but I was too scared to stand up to her. I let her bully you because I did not want her to turn on me. That was cowardly." "Derek, you voted to close the matter when the fire inspection came back clean. You voted against the noise study. You did the right thing when it counted, but I should have done it sooner. I should have had your back from the beginning." He sighed. "I learned a lot from watching you fight this. You never backed down, even when it would have been easier to just give in. That took guts." "It took stubbornness more than guts. I just do not like being told I am wrong when I know I am right." Derek laughed. "Well, your stubbornness saved the HOA from a thief and taught all of us a lesson about accountability, so I guess it worked out." After he left, I sat on the porch a while longer, thinking about everything that had happened. The confrontation, the inspection, the meetings, the trial, the reforms, the advocacy work. All of it had started because I wanted to protect my family during power outages. Grace joined me on the porch, bringing 2 glasses of iced tea. "What are you thinking about?" "Just reflecting on the past 2 years. It has been quite a ride." "Do you think Brenda has learned anything from all this?" I considered that. "I honestly do not know. Some people never learn. They just feel like victims no matter what. But I hope she has had time to think about what she did and why it was wrong." "Do you think she will try to come after you when she gets out?" "I doubt it. She would be insane to do that after everything that happened. And besides, I heard through Tom that she is planning to move out of state when she is released. Fresh start somewhere else. Probably for the best." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the lights come on across the neighborhood. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear kids playing and dogs barking, normal suburban sounds. "You know what I find funny?" Grace said. "What?" "The generator actually is kind of ugly." "Brenda was not completely wrong about that," I laughed. "It is not that bad, and anyway, function over form. I would rather have something ugly that works than something pretty that does not." Spoken like a true engineer. "Hey, I am in IT, not engineering." "Close enough." Jake came outside in his pajamas, ready for bed. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Sure, buddy." "Tyler's mom said his HOA would not let them put up a basketball hoop. She said they should just do what you did and fight back." "What did she mean?" I looked at Grace, who smiled. Then I turned back to Jake. "She meant that sometimes you have to stand up for yourself when someone treats you unfairly. But the important thing is to make sure you are actually in the right. I did not just fight back against the HOA because I was angry. I fought back because I knew I had followed all the rules and done everything correctly. The fire chief confirmed it, so I had truth on my side. So you cannot just fight back anytime you want. No, you have to be right first. And you have to be willing to see it through, even when it is hard and takes a long time. Justice does not always happen quickly." Jake thought about that, then nodded. "Okay, good night, Dad." "Good night, Jake." After he went inside, Grace leaned her head on my shoulder. "Good answer. Thanks. I have had a lot of practice explaining this story over the past 2 years. You think you will still be talking about it in 10 years? Probably not. Eventually something else will happen in the neighborhood and everyone will move on. That is how it works. Today's big drama is tomorrow's old news. But I was wrong about that. The story of the HOA president who went to prison had staying power. Years later, when new families moved into Saguaro Heights, they would hear the tale from their neighbors. It became part of the community's shared history, a cautionary tale about what happens when power goes unchecked. And my generator, the humble piece of equipment that had started it all, became something of a neighborhood landmark. When people gave directions, they would say things like, "Turn left at the Morrison place, the house with the generator." I eventually got used to it. The generator was part of my identity now, for better or worse. But the real legacy of those 2 difficult years was not the generator or even Brenda's downfall. It was the stronger, more transparent, more accountable HOA that emerged from the ashes of corruption. It was the reforms that protected other homeowners from similar harassment. It was the state law that gave homeowners clearer rights and better recourse against overreaching HOAs. And on a personal level, it was the knowledge that I had done the right thing and seen it through to the end. That when challenged by someone in authority, I had stood my ground, gathered my evidence, and trusted the system to work. And it had worked. Chief Rodriguez had confirmed everything was by the book, and that confirmation had been the foundation for everything that followed. Without that fire inspection report, I would have been fighting an uphill battle with nothing but my word against the HOA presidents. But with that official document from a respected fire chief, I had proof that I was right. That is the power of documentation, of following proper procedures, of doing things the right way from the start. It is not glamorous or exciting, but it is effective. As Grace and I finally went inside that evening, I took one last look at the generator. It was just a machine, a practical solution to a common problem. But it had become a symbol of something larger, the importance of preparation, the value of standing up for yourself, and the necessity of holding those in power accountable. Not bad for an $8,000 piece of equipment that was just supposed to keep the lights on during blackouts. The years that followed were peaceful. Tom served 2 more terms as HOA president before stepping down and being replaced by Patricia, who brought her accounting expertise to the role and kept the association's finances transparent and well managed. The reforms held, and Sagaro Heights became known as one of the better-run communities in the Phoenix area. I never did join the HOA board, despite repeated invitations. I preferred to stay involved as a regular resident, attending meetings when necessary, but otherwise living my life without the drama of community politics. But I did stay active in homeowner rights advocacy. I spoke at a few more conferences, helped several other homeowners navigate disputes with their HOAs, and even consulted with the Arizona Homeowner Rights Coalition on policy recommendations. And through it all, the generator kept running. 5-minute test cycle every month, automatic activation during power outages, and a reliable source of backup power that had proven its worth time and time again. Sometimes, late at night when I could not sleep, I would go outside and look at the generator and think about how different things might have been. What if I had just backed down when Brenda first confronted me? What if I had not insisted on the fire inspection? What if I had removed the generator to avoid the conflict? The Hendersons might not have had anywhere to go during that first big power outage. Brenda's corruption might never have been uncovered. The HOA reforms might never have happened. The state law might never have passed. One small decision to stand my ground had set off a chain of events that affected hundreds of people and created lasting change. That is the thing about doing what is right. You never know how far the ripples will spread. And so life went on in Sagaro Heights, a quiet subdivision in Phoenix, Arizona, where a simple backup generator had sparked a revolution, brought down a corrupt HOA president, and reminded an entire community that accountability matters and that sometimes the little guy really can win. All because a fire chief came out one Friday morning, did his job professionally, and confirmed what I already knew. Everything was by the book.